friends, this is Meethy the pharmacist, and welcome to our food church here. And I'd love to welcome today Mr. Justin Duell, who is here from the G Farm. And okay, but where's the G Farm?
We're in Larson, Wisconsin.
Yes. All right, so welcome. So tell us, Justin, now one thing I know is you're a hometown hero. You're an American hero. Thank you for your service.
100%.
I also have been watching your videos. You're doing a really good job out there.
Thank you.
And it's so interesting that I get to talk with you today because you haven't been able to go full time on the farm yet. You are practicing what I can see to be like a polyphase practice, but also incorporating raw milk. Is that correct?
I'm not to the raw milk yet. I started buying some of the equipment, and I think that my size and scope will get me there to the ultimate goal of farming exclusively. So I feel that the income that can be brought to the farm through raw milk is definitely superior than just having beef cattle. So that's a transition, and I need more time and free up the day job. That's part of that puzzle.
Well, I'm really happy to be able to speak with you about this aspect of getting into farming, and also the fact that you haven't been able to go full-time as a farmer, because we're facing a lot of challenges with eaters, generally speaking. They don't understand economics of farming and of real food. And it's something that I really want to hammer on, like big time, generally speaking, this entire season, because we're going through a major centralized collapse. And I think that eaters need to understand what that exactly means. And I would like to use your help to explain that to them, because, you know, people say, well, Meethy, you're not even a farmer. How can you, like, who are you to be saying all these things? And I'm like, well, I'm an eater who had all her farms go out of business, or try to go out of business, or threaten to go out of business, like, constantly. And I don't want to farm, but I want to support farmers. And I created this space to support farmers, because eaters just have no idea how what they want arrives on their plate.
Yep, there's a long process getting from the hatcheries or from birth all the way up to the processor, and then bring it back onto the farm for the resale process. So yeah, there's quite a road there.
So you are coming out of the military, is that correct? Or are you coming out of the military into some other job into farming?
Another job was in between. So I got done with high school, went directly into the military, was a parachute rigger in the 82nd Airborne, did that for 3 years, came back to Wisconsin. My adopted dad asked if I would start doing tax preparation for his retirement firm as a bringing on new clientele kind of strategy. And in doing that, I did taxes for 12 years. And after doing taxes for that duration, there was one client that kind of stuck out to me. He had very good, healthy income, and he had this negative line on his tax return, and I couldn't figure it out. I was blown away each year that he'd bring his return in, and I learned that he liked what he was doing in his backyard, and probably bringing that joy, whereas the day job wasn't bringing that same level of excitement to his life. So yeah, I looked in my backyard. I had a couple of chickens and a small garden, and I wanted to try to scale that up to make a family lifestyle and living.
Wow. I didn't realize it had been that long, and that is really, really, that's wonderful. So you're perfect for us to speak with regarding the economics of this, because I've been trying to explain to eaters for a long time that they're not comparing apples to apples. And it's so far away from each other, that it's really difficult for people to reconcile cost. And right now, the farmers that I'm working with, they're just every day saying, we shouldn't have to only be providing stuff here at the church where we can make a profit. We should be able to make a profit anywhere. And I agree. I mean, I shouldn't have to have a food church. Like,
Right.
it's ridiculous. Like, I should not have to stand on religious freedom for us to be able to speak about the benefits and the reasons for needing and wanting regenerative meat.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, there are roadblocks everywhere you turn on a small farm, especially when you get into all the different types of entities, fiefdoms, as Joel calls it. All of those different areas, each have their barriers, and to navigate through each of them to scale your property to the right size to maximize your income profitably is the challenge.
Can you speak to those fiefdoms? Explain that to people who have no idea who Joel Salatin is or what the fiefdoms are.
Yeah. Joel is a great role model as far as learning how to farm, and then bringing your own experience in. Thereafter is definitely an important key as well. I shouldn't speak for him directly. My understanding is his definition of fiefdoms is each entity. So I can't compare my chickens to my turkey. They're not the same. They're not eating the same. They're on the farm for a different amount of time. That from the cattle are different, that from the egg production. So each of these entities, each have their place on the farm, and each have their own, they need to be categorized and looked at accordingly. It's not just the entirety of the farm. One of the entities that didn't work out well for us was rabbits. I think rabbit is a fantastic meat and quality of meat, healthy that way. However, folks around here just don't want to eat it. So I can't just continue to fill up my freezer, and the time and the energy and the effort, infrastructure, all of that it's not being substantiated at the end of the day, continuing to do that and build that particular fiefdom. So each of them are their own, but they all bring back to the whole of the farm. Does that sound
Well,
good?
they're enterprises essentially, right?
Correct. Yep.
Various enterprises. What a lot of people don't understand is if you are a polyphased, we just mean multifaceted, like multi-species regenerative farm, then each species is an enterprise. It has a different investment. It has a different, value that it's bringing. It requires different husbandry, different knowledge. And so you can't really compare them equally. I think a lot of times what eaters don't understand is, you just put all these animals on the farm, there's the farm, and they go to the farm, and then they just eat grass. It's like for free. And so, what I don't understand, like if you're doing pastured grass, it must just be on grass, and grass is just free.
Right.
Do you want to talk about the cost of grass?
Well, there's cost of grass. I mean, each and every single year, I think, did you ask me the question earlier through an email maybe of how the pasture was on year 3 versus year 2? I mean, did that come up
I don't think it was me. Maybe it was somebody else, but this is a good thing for you to talk about. Yeah.
For sure. So, I mean, all of my sister, we had a rummage sale at the farm this weekend. It was a bad experience, and it was rainy, so it didn't work out well. But my sister and I had a lot of time to talk. And one of the things that came up was, how the health of the animals on our farm are better in this is season 7, so in year 6 than year 1, because all of the continuous rotation, all of the manure and the added nitrogen, the vitamins, and all of the things from each of those animals are building that soil to be a healthier soil. And so to complete that, I mean, it's the grass and the pastures in each season, each rotation is getting better. So all of that does add value and continue to do so. I think that the farm overall, I mean, you can tell the difference if you look at an overhead from 2015, the day that I moved on, till today. It is vastly different. The grass is much more lush. The animals are defined in their rotations, and it is just so. So
you've been doing this 7 years, is that correct?
This is the 7th season going.
7th season. So, I think people need to understand, if you're counting seasons, that's also based on enterprises, based on the creatures. Like birds, you don't probably raise them past, you're not raising them on the grass because there's no grass in the winter. So
Right.
a lot of folks who are eaters have no idea that you harvest all the animals or the majority of them by fall, or want to try to harvest the majority because they're not going to grow in the same way. And one of the things that you were referring to is the massaging of the soil. A lot of folks also, don't understand. I mean, I'm going to break this down like into very basic with you because I want you to explain it to them because because we're starting this off here with you. Okay.
Yep.
Like, how do you, as someone who wants to get into regenerative farming, get into this line and get out of, whatever other job you're doing so that you can actually enjoy this full time. You should not have to work a 40-hour, 50, 80-hour job and then also farm that requires 40. It would be nice to be able to give it 40 hours or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, give those animals all your attention. Hence another reason, like if you can't afford to farm and not have another job, eaters should wonder why and want to know what it is that they have to do to be able to make it so you can just farm so that you can live. There's no reason that you should be, there are these three aspects I want to hit on is like that human rights piece. Everyone keeps talking about animal rights. We're about the human rights. The only things I care about is the human rights. I mean, as lions, I only think about lions' rights. I don't even think they care about the giraffes or even the tigers. Why are the humans not caring about human rights, the human rights?
I think the rest of the things fall in line after that. If we're taking care of ourselves, we're being responsible, we're taking care of our ecosystem, and then all of the other animals are all healthy and happy after that. So,
right.
yes.
You can't honor anything else or anyone else or any other creature if you're not honoring yourself. So this is part of the twisted orthodoxy that I want to kind of break everybody out of, which they're going to have to do anyway, Justin, because the system's collapsing.
I agree.
This imitation system is collapsing because it's imitation. Truth is not going anywhere, and the cost of food is still what it always was. But like, I know I kind of just went ding, 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 like all over the board, but these are all things I want the eaters to hear and think about. I mean, I just said a lot of reasons for you to never want to do this. And yet you still do.
It's the right
for
way.
7 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to love this. You really have to be passionate about it. Right. I mean, we know it's the correct thing. You're doing the correct thing no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I think that what I'm observing is most people that are doing regenerative farming are doing it philanthropically first. But you don't want to call it that because you don't want to be a bad businessman, because farmers have been made to believe. I mean, people are wanting farmers to believe and wanting our eaters to believe farmers are dumb. You can't be dumb and be responsible for all those heartbeats. You just can't. And also you're building soil. That is what you're doing. I mean, that thing that you're talking about, the allowing them to massage the earth and do what they're talking about is also energy. It's also electromagnetic energy that those creatures are putting on there. What you're talking about, like what it looked like 7 seasons ago and what it looks like now, is you are harnessing the power that creates worlds.
Yep.
What kind of value does somebody want to put on that?
So we are right on a highway. So the worst type of pollution that we have and suffer from is noise pollution from the highway. There's a really big turn that comes in right before you get past it. And my vision when I found this property was that people would be driving down and they'd see the cornfields and all the other types of agriculture, but then they'd see this forest because we're planting hundreds of trees a year, and they're going to see this forest and they're not going to recognize it. It's going to be totally new to them that healthy food is produced in this regenerative forest edge type ecosystem. So part of the reason why it's taken so long for us to build our grass and to get a good healthy pasture is because maybe 15 years ago, somewhere in that time frame, the Department of Transportation of Wisconsin took a lot of the fill from this property and put it underneath the highway when they put that in. So they left behind glacial subsoils, and it was a very inexpensive property. So as far as the economics of purchasing, it was affordable to me. And then knowing my system and believing in the process, that's where bringing animals on, and again, my sister mentioning that animals today are healthier and bringing more nutrients to the table than in the beginning. So yeah, it's taken a long time. I can't wait to see 7 more years. There's been times where I just sit down and I can't wait to see what it's going to end up with. You can either start with a forest and you can cut down the trees to have row crop or alley crops like that, or you can start with a blank slate and plant trees, which is the route that we went. So to fathom what 5-10 years is going to be when the trees are towering over us, it's going to be pretty impressive. I can't wait.
It's like your hands are in the clay, like deep in the clay, and
Yep.
you're just leveraging life force. Isn't that like that's the reward, isn't it?
It is. It is. I going back to the economics of it too. Because it was a inexpensive property and the soil health was not there, bringing that into up to par at this point and beyond in the future. Having the diversity, the nuts, the fruits, and those types of things are going to help that the economic needs that I have in order to get to where I want to go to farm exclusively. So yeah, it takes time, each of those entities. So
you're supporting that. So this is like season 7. How many actually growing season? You only have the one growing season? Right?
I do count that as year. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm just checking
my summer season. Right.
So for all the YouTubers out there, like what we're talking about is livestock, and livestock has seasons also. I think people just think that plants have seasons, but you can't have plants without animals, and you can't even have soil without animals, as evidenced by what Farmer Justin's saying right now. Like, he moved onto this land. I don't know if everyone's understanding. There was no topsoil. They took the wealth off of that land and they buried it under a highway, which is insane. And I mean, they could have taken all the plastic bags and plastic bottles that we can't figure out what to do with and like melt them down and pour them underneath the highway, because that would make more sense. But
better resource use, yeah, for sure.
But nature has so much grace. So Justin comes in and just says, fine, this is worthless land since you can't grow anything on it. And he just waves his magic wand and allows, several species of livestock to massage the earth and just grow the soil back. Yep. That's amazing, amazing. I think that is one of the lessons that I've been trying to impress upon the eaters, like as many ways as I can, because I just don't know that it's ever sinking in that, there's no ethical reason not to support livestock. Can you speak to some of that, perhaps?
There's no reason. Can you repeat the question part of that?
The question is that, so eaters think that eating meat right now is unethical.
Right. Well,
I believe that's absolutely crazy, because it's unethical not to support and have purpose for the livestock, because you can't have soil or plants without livestock.
It's the symbiosis. I mean, we need to be eating meat that is ethically, responsibly, regeneratively. Those are just, whichever one of the words.
Those are just kind of bad words. Let's use the real words. Life-giving force.
Sure.
The only way to harness the power that creates worlds is with this symbiotic relationship that requires us to consume meat from animals healthier than we are. And
so the alternative, what we're looking at, in the face of, is let's plant more soy. Let's take more of that and make it into fake meat in a lab and feed that to people as their meat source. And you're just going to take more. You're already getting enough soy and corn. Look at the labels from anything in a grocer. So just to replace that, like with more soy, that's lunacy. So yes, you need to eat real meat from a real farm, and knowing the farmers.
What he's doing out there, you guys. I mean, the reason I want to have all you folks on the show is because everyone says to me, Justin, how do I know where I can get my meat from? Okay, I read your book, but how do I know that what they're doing is this way? So this is just me vetting out Farmer Justin for you to all hear what he's doing on his land. I don't think he's using soy. Are you using soy?
I want to be very clear. So we have chicken and we have pork, and chicken absolutely has a crop and they're ready to be eating feed that does have that. We have soy-free choices and soy choices. So we do.
Is that because of the eaters, Justin?
It is because of the eaters. Yep, demand.
Okay, eaters, listen carefully because he's listening. He's listening to you. This is me being in the middle of the translator, because what I find is eaters say, well, farmers say blah, blah, blah. I said, farmers, I always say to them, the farmer is producing what you are willing to pay for. Let's say it again. The farmer is doing what you're willing to pay for. So if you want to stop the chemical sensitivity, because soy is a tumor grower and a hormone disruptor, and I'm sure that Farmer Justin is happy to stop using it.
I started out without using it, so I moved into having it because I needed to, because I was growing a farm and I'm trying to grow. And looking at my tax preparation, I started by doing tax preparation at $49.99 per tax return. My first year I did like 80 tax returns. The next year I did 160. So I grew my contingency, and then I moved the price up. And I didn't lose clients. I gained clients because of my experience, because of the need, the value was there. So I'm kind of using that strategy in my current farm. But there are people, yes, bringing new people in, learning, experiencing it, and that is something of it's healthier than going to the supermarket and buying their soy chicken, because it is out on pasture. So
let me fix that for you. Okay. For all of those people who just thought that I just called his food poison because he uses soy, I'm not saying that, because if a bird is on soy and has 3 blades of grass a day, the medicine that the bird gets out of that 3 blades of grass helps that bird remediate a lot of whatever would be otherwise bothering, anyone from the soy. But it doesn't, I won't leave it right there, because listen, the folks that are out there that have been eating fake food that's in the grocery store for 20, 40 years, who have chemical sensitivities that they've developed as a side effect of their hormonal dysfunction because of the soy, because they wanted stuff for cheap and easy and they didn't learn to cook or didn't want to cook, or I don't really know, didn't need to cook, because food is everywhere and food is actually nowhere. Okay. But people think food is everywhere. And so they've created this chemical sensitivity, and it only took 40 years or something crazy for them to develop this metabolic disorder. And now they're so sensitive to this because they've created all this interference with constant antibiotics, constant medication, constant ibuprofen, constant everything that they're ripping their guts up with. And then they want to come and blame the farmer or say that you're trying to do something, but they want also for you to give it to them for $1 a pound, which is crazy. Like, you can't keep poisoning yourself, folks, and then come and go to Farmer Justin and be like, well, I'm coming here to get this because it's supposed to be better. And why are you using that? Because that's not better. You're supposed to be doing it better. Well, Farmer Justin is like, listen, if you want to be just on pasture and be like what he's doing in the way that you want, that's $3 a pound. If you want to make it a higher quality pasture, that's $4 a pound. If you
Right.
want to make it GMO free, it's $5 a pound. If
Right.
you want it to be soy free, it's $6 a pound. If you, because for everything that he's going to do to take out that chemical interference for you, it's going to cost him about $1 a pound, pretty much, for that creature to be raised. And I don't care if it's a chicken or a hog or a cow, which cows they got to carry out 3 years, and the grocery stores are not. They're carrying them out one barely year, and he's carrying them out almost 3. Okay, so for every year he carries out a beef, that's $3 a pound. And that's just not even saying he's on grain or off grain or I don't care what. If he is carrying that risk for 3 years, can you talk about financial risk in this way?
Good. Well, the longer that you keep any animal on the farm, we don't use any kind of antibiotics or any of that type of stuff. So if there's anything that were to go wrong, that's a large cost to, to with any of that type of loss. So yeah, especially beef or pork. I mean, that's, and we do lose animals. That's not at a ridiculous rate or anything, but their animals do go by the wayside and are lost that way, unfortunately. However, to well, I guess those are the main risks. I guess we don't have the input costs of the antibiotic or the vet or any of that type of stuff, or the infrastructure for those types of things. So that kind of goes by the wayside too that way. But yeah, the longer that you keep an animal, the more cost it is, and the time to move those animals, the less grass another animal is going to get. So yeah, there's a cost to having each of those animals on there on a daily basis.
If you're doing grain and infrastructure, you're not using your labor or fencing or land probably in any of the same way.
Right.
And as free as they think your land is, it's not when you're only allowed to use this much of it and then this much of it. Can you talk about like maybe cow days? Maybe that helps to create more value for the grass. What do you think?
That calving?
Cow days.
Cow days.
Cow days on the pasture. Like
oh,
when
cow days. Oh yeah. All right. So I rotate in about a 40-day rotation. So it's best practice to keep from regrazing any space more than once every 40 days. And my carrying capacity of my farm is about 21 animals. I'm below that right now, but I'm also moving up in my pork. So now having another animal, so animal units, I can't just say just cow days. So that reduces some of my beef grass ability. Now looking at, so this is a moving number, and I've looked at putting it down on paper and trying to find out what it was at any one point in time. And then I get a little bit overwhelmed, and I have not come up with an exact date value to this, but with time, my pastures gained carrying capacity because it is a healthier pasture, denser, better growing grass, and bringing more animals onto that. If I were to put 40 or 50 head of cattle onto my farm, all of the grass is going to be nibbled to the ground. It's going to stunt the grass. It's not going to regrow. So I'm only capable of doing so much with what I have. Yes, I can look at and do use other land. I have a rental pasture that I have down the road, but now I have 2 herds moving the cattle. So that's another cost to my time and the equipment and having that. So yes, I have to be cognizant of how many cow days I have on my pasture. We're in Wisconsin. We're going to have less than the Carolinas. All of the farmers in this area, we just started doing our pasture grazing. I'm just looking at full thick fields at this point. A week ago, it was not quite as well. We didn't have the rain, so this rain that just came through is super important for us. Looking back a week before that, I just started. So I'm 2 weeks into my grazing rotation. I'm going to make it through this farm and then take half the animals to bring to the rental. And then I'll continue 2 herds rotating across that. Last year, I rotated across the farm with about 20 animals, I believe 5 times. So that's probably thereabouts where I'll be again this year, just because of the increase in my pork production, taking away something about an acre of my field. I should be clear on that too. That's leading into that. I have 27 acres of farm, and there's a 3.5 acre pond right in the middle, and I kind of rotate around the pond.
That's lovely. I don't think anyone understands anything about that when they're just eating. They don't know how much land is required for them to have a beef. And they don't even understand that to do this intensive grazing, how you need, like a nice little herd. That's also something. Then also the pressure, and then also moving that pressure, and making sure that they're able to have enough. And then also like you're talking about the crossover with the hogs. And can you use any of it again, in the year where you can run the hogs behind the cows at all or not or whatever? I mean, there's so many things to think about. And I don't think eaters have any idea of what's required, because I think a lot of folks think that, oh, if I have 5 acres, I could raise all my food by myself. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends. If you're just going to eat a whole lot of vegetation, probably.
When you first stepped on to the first farm that you were looking at, and now when you go onto a farm, you know much better what you're looking for because you've had those conversations and understand. We invite customers, or any good farmer is going to be inviting customers out to the farm to see for themselves. So I encourage you to do so. We're not shy. We're proud of the work that we're doing. So go and pay them a visit. They'd love it.
I know. I tell everybody, I'm like, you should go. You should visit them regularly for like a year to just really establish a relationship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why Justin and I like to do subscriptions and to try to do like weekly and monthly. And I'm not in support of wholes, halves, and quarters. There's 2 reasons I don't really support that. Okay. One is I don't support it because the government, your competition, the government, because the government is providing a free food system, and then they're asking you to compete with them. No, they actually don't even want you to exist. Let's just make that very clear to everybody. And so if Justin wants to farm and actually produce something that we want to eat, it would, every way you look at it, it's a private food system where you need to go and have a personal private relationship with Farmer Justin about what Farmer Justin's doing over there. And if Farmer Justin has his cadre of people, his village, should be his community, should just be like, the people right within, 12 miles of him. That's who it ought to be. Or, okay, let's say 25, because maybe you're surrounded by farmers and they're all producing. So you got to go a little bit further. So eaters, I think if you're not prepared to travel between 50 and 80 miles to get your food, further, if you have to, for it to be correct in this moment in time, then you're not doing yourself any justice or the farmer. And I think that you should see them at least once a month minimally. And farmers, I'm gonna say to you too, Justin, the reason that, so what they did was they said that farmers, they, meaning institution, meaning the government, okay, the government says that you're only supposed to sell quarters, halves, and wholes directly. You're not supposed to do packages. That's under the meat handlers rules and whatever. But that means that Farmer Justin is supposed to wholesale everything to you. And guess what? He's the economist. You tell us, Mr. Farmer Justin. I don't know any business that can thrive if it doesn't have 80% retail with a 20%. I mean, these are just very big, broad numbers, okay? But 80% full retail to 20% wholesale, but you're only allowed to wholesale. How is that going to work? That is not going to work. So then Farmer Justin's going to be like, either I'm going to just be an accountant most of the time and I'll farm until I can't care about y'all anymore. Yep. Or if we eaters want him really to farm really for reals, because he's got all this knowledge and we need him to do something with that for us because he loves it and he has land and we want to support that.
And I want you to eat well.
Right. He wants us to be well. Yep. But I mean, understanding these numbers, he needs to be able to have at least 80% retail and maybe consider wholesale. But most small farms can't afford wholesale because the volume that you require to do that.
I hear you talking a lot about price, and I think that that is part of our job as educators and teaching and communicating that the cost needs to be taken care of. What do you think about convenience? Do you think convenience is one of the barriers for customers? I know I heard you say to expect customers or as a customer to go drive. That if you need to drive 80 miles, be willing to do that. I hope that you can find someone closer, and maybe it's a good idea to have 2 or 3 farmers. You don't need to buy all of your product from the same place, because what happens if they go under? What happens if they get sick? Then you're going to be without having those other relationships. So the more that you support, so maybe the best farmer that you can find is 80 miles away. You go to that farm and buy the things that you need to, but Farmer John is 10 miles down the road, and you can go there and buy a couple of things. Support them, support John, because the more that you go there and help him too, he's going to be able to build and grow his dream and be able to help more people around that area local to you. So
I just want it to be a consistent basis. This is what I'm trying to impress on people, is that, okay, let's pretend that they don't have to drive to you, that you're doing some drops near them, whatever. Okay. Farmers, for you guys, I'm saying, you should feel comfortable, rather than counting on wholes, halves, and quarters, count on 15-pound bags. It's something reasonable. It's 1 grocery bag's worth of meat. It should be more. It's not enough meat for a whole month. It's enough to support Farmer Justin. And also you can still go support John and Bill and everybody along the way. Okay. Like anybody that you want to support. If you buy 2 chickens a month from one person, and 16 pounds of beef or 15 pounds of beef from one person, and 15 pounds of pork from somebody every month, that's huge. And also the big deal is that now Farmer Justin knows how many animals he's got to raise, because he knows you're going to come every month, or he's going to bring it somewhere near you, or whatever, something of that nature. But this type of eaters don't understand that you can't afford to wholesale, which is my bottom line with this whole thing. They think that when they come to you directly, they should be able to get it for cheaper than anywhere else, which can't happen when what's being sold in the stores is a lie. And if somebody wants to come to a farmer's market, farmers like Justin are pressured to meet some price points established by the market, which is still the government, because it's still a centralized distribution location, and it promotes and pushes only wholesale, which is going to sink a farm. Even if you say, hey, Justin, I'm going to buy a whole cow from you every year, that sounds great. And it might even be convenient for him, because he doesn't maybe want to see you more than once a year, okay? Because he's busy doing other things. But for actually regenerative farms to thrive, they need income monthly. They need to know what they're producing and who they're producing it for on a regular basis. And maybe he only wants to do 20 beeves a year. Maybe he's going to do more than that because you're coming to him regularly. I think it should be your decision, though, Justin, to be able to establish your max capacity. If you're, like maybe you want to invest in more land because you have more eaters.
I'd love to.
Yeah, but I think that the big deal is that you don't need probably more than 50 families that commit to seeing you every month for you to have a foothold.
I think that is when I look at the big number. So if I had $120,000 to $200,000 of revenue per year, that would put me there.
Okay, so for eaters who don't know what that means that he needs 50 families buying chicken, pork, and beef monthly. That means he needs to sell your family 2 chickens, 15 pounds of beef, and 15 pounds of pork, and probably 12 dozen eggs all year, every month. That's what one farmer from one family needs to just have a foothold. And for the eater, that isn't enough meat for you. It's not. If you're only eating 2 chickens a month and 15 pounds of beef and 15 pounds of pork a month, you're not eating enough meat. You cannot gain any health. I don't care what you think. You cannot.
I found you from a podcast called Unloose the Goose. So that's where I heard of you first. and was really loved that conversation. And I found them through Jack Spirko. And he encourages people to do a food diary, know what you're eating. That way you know what to grow, know what to store, and all of that type of thing. So my wife and I did that for about a year to find out how much meat that we were eating. Just her and I, not our daughter, not our newest daughter. We were eating about, I think it was almost 40 pounds of meat. So 20 pounds for each of us. That's a lot of meat. And I'm a little bit bashful to say that, but we are farmers and we are producing that. I could eat a little bit more vegetables. I could be just be honest. I could. But so it's in the big freezer and we're able to walk right out to pick it up. And I'm not overweight or unhealthy by any means. It's not what I'm alluding to. But yes, just buying a couple of chickens and a couple of pounds of beef and pork for a whole entire family, you are certainly being fed in other areas outside of the home if that's the case. You're lying to your farmer or yourself if you're
only to yourself.
Yeah.
only to yourself, because we don't care. I mean, listen, I tell everybody, you don't need vegetables for literally any reason. I know that. I can speak to it. I'm making very bold statements. Okay. Research it, figure it out. But back in the day, if you're dropped in the middle of nowhere and you need to survive and you have nothing, I mean, I think, Justin, you served, you get dropped in the middle of nowhere. What's the first thing you're going to do? I mean, I don't imagine you're looking for a garden.
For a card?
A garden.
A garden? No.
You're not going to get dropped in the middle of nowhere and be like, I got to find civilization. And I mean, I think that isn't, I don't know what they do when they're training military, but it seems like a good idea to drop you in the middle of nowhere and make you find your way out. So I don't know if they actually really do that. I've watched movies. I don't really know, but I'm just making this stuff up, but like, if you drop somebody in the middle of nowhere, you are not looking for a garden, okay? And you're not going to make it out of there alive. If you are, you're just not going to. If you want to be finding your ethics at that moment, I'm pretty confident you're going to find some guts to figure out how to kill a fish or something to eat it, because
that plus the amount of energy it takes to take out a small animal that way is going to give you more caloric value than you eating anything that would come out of the garden. So the energy that your body is going to want, the fats from that meat that your body needs to be able to get that distance out of the middle of nowhere is necessary, much more so than any plant is going to give you. So,
and we're animals. And we need fat for fuel, and we have to consume that fat for fuel. We can't produce it because we turn everything to sugar. And we even turn fat and protein into sugar. Those are just facts. Y'all can look it up. It's part of our digestive system.
Full transparency, when I heard your podcast on the Unloose the Goose, I was running to the computer to buy a box to bring to our customers. And my wife has been reading through it. And the two things that she's read aloud to me, one was the grading system that you put together. So I knew these things were going to come up. And we had it's not like bad, like, oh my gosh, we got a low grade, but we kept reading. You have a very tough grading scale and we appreciate it. So that's very awesome. And the second one was about the meat. My wife read that one to me just the other morning. So you can see how far she's made it in the book here. But she was reading how much meat that we need and the very minimal caloric value out of any vegetation that way was quite low. So yeah, it's been a great read so far. So thank you.
Oh, great. Well, Justin did what I said. He listened to Unleash the Goose then. That must be where you got the bright idea. He heard me say, for you to be successful as a farmer, get a case of my books and pass them out to all your people and make them read it and before they could be a customer, because they should have this education and they should be able to value what you do. And also, I think that farmers don't need to try to explain to everybody how valuable what it is that they're doing is, because it's really valuable and it matters so much to me. Like, it really does. And thank you for doing it, because look, all of us have different wants and needs and desires. And that's the reason we are social, like, creatures who've always like lived and thrived in tribes, and in community. And like, this is me doing my part to support you, because I'm not gonna, I don't want to do that side of it. And it's not because I can't do it. I mean, I'll cook for everybody, I'll work on the other side doing other things, but somebody's got to raise the animals. And but also, you don't have time to do all of that and regrow the soil and do everything and then also explain it to everybody else. Like, we have to all work together. And so, yeah, I think people don't know their consumption. I love your idea of the diary, or Jack's, whoever came up with it. It's important. I always told people, I said, find your receipts. You
Okay.
think you have a food budget. You don't have a food budget. You get hungry and you eat.
It's the first most important piece. First part of the puzzle. Got to take care of self, and eating on a regular basis is part of that. Otherwise, I know I get grumpy when I'm not getting fed.
Hey. Well, you know what it is it's the training. The training currently, which I would like to make this a new norm. Okay. The new norm should be, you must eat, you must sleep, you must dote over yourself, and then do something else. You must eat, you must sleep, and because the orthodoxy is, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to sleep, you're only supposed to run 100 miles an hour. And why are you stopping to smell the roses? Why? How dare you stop and smell the roses? Like, you're not allowed to do that. But it's interesting to me that some of the most popular, like, Instagram pages are the ones where someone is smelling the roses and taking a video of it and posting that. Or, but I would like to give permission to whomever out there requires it to go visit Farmer Justin and walk the land and just see, and then go back in a year and see what it looks like, so he can show you this spot or that spot. It would be really cool, probably, Justin, if on the land, if you put these markers and just said, like, let's always go to these specific markers and make those be like little things for everybody to see. And you can take a picture every year and have it in those cool barns that you have on the land. Like, I want to come there someday just to go inside those barns. I was like, oh, he's got these really cool barns. But like, you could hang a picture, or, Polaroids, if they would last that long, up there of each one of those little spots, so you can see the progression. I think that would be fascinating. And you can have like a reel of those pieces. You might have something like that already. I don't know.
I have some, mostly digitalized. So we have our farm store in the front of the farm in our old milk house, and it's pretty tiny, and it's had an evolution through the years because we've been growing more and more food as each season. And we're on the cusp of outgrowing that. So we actually just started putting concrete in our pole shed, which the previous farmer took all of the revenue from selling off all the soil and put up this huge pole shed. And now we're working at making a new farm store inside of there, and it's going to be much larger, able to serve more customers that way. So this is going to be our central hub for years to come. And yes, I would love to put pictures and to remember where it started and how we've gotten to where we are. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, I think it should be a destination place. I think that I'm going to enjoy I'm going to want to keep in touch with you just to see how things are progressing. And I hope that this video will help eaters find you and want to come there. And listen, you guys, Farmer Justin's over there doing whatever it is that you want him to do, whatever you're going to pay him to do, but he's going to have his own standards. Now, the report card that I put in my book, Justin, is pretty tough. I'd like for everybody to take it with a grain of salt. I didn't want to write it. Joel insisted that I put a report card in there. And I was like, please take it with a grain of salt, because it's like creating a report card for parents for their children, and it's ridiculous almost. But eaters have no idea what they're walking into, and they don't understand, where to start. But also I say in the book that an F is better than anything in a grocery store because it's still food. And everything in a grocery store is poison. It falls below the F line because it has to meet health code. If it has to meet health code, they have to wash it in bleach. So it has to be enzymatically dead and otherwise dead and dead and dead and dead. And you're providing everybody with food that's alive, and it's going to rot because it's alive, and it's like going to give them power because they're alive, and you're giving them life force. Here, quick, eat this life force before, so
Yep.
don't stop what you're doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And you have the last 5 minutes to tell us anything and everything that you want everybody to know about the G Farm.
Well, I would have to start by saying I love what I'm doing. I've taken my backyard and my dream and passion to the next level on this property. It's given me the ability to have a daughter, have a wife. We got married on the farm 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Ember, our youngest daughter, turns 1 year old tomorrow, so we're super excited about that. Ava, 17. It's a very different time in her life than Ember's, and Ava is moving on to the farm out of the city has been very interesting for her. So, but it's having a farm, having the family on the farm. It's so integral, and I love being able to teach and show and share that way. So that's a really big piece of that. Yes, the value of food. It is not being recognized. You are harming your body when you're going outside of knowing exactly where that food is coming from. And it's not, I don't want to be judgy and let you know that every single thing is because there are sweets out there that are tasty and can draw you in, but they are bad decisions. And you need to, I encourage you to make the best decisions by finding what's appropriate for you. And there are people that are going to, farmers that are going to meet those needs. I've made the decision to take a step back with some of our production and not like a step back in the volume of production, but the quality of production, because that is what people do want. And I do want to farm, and I do want to bring them in with that piece of it, so you can experience the other parts that there are to be had. So that's as far as that goes. We sell product through a subscription. So we have an 8 and 16 pound meat CSA. I think that's phenomenal. I encourage any other farmers that are listening to this to get into that kind of a model. We do deliver that on a monthly basis. They subscribe, pay on a monthly basis. As soon as payments are made the following Tuesday, today's delivery day. So we're going to go take our drive around town and get all that nice product directly to the people. So that's as far as making business decisions. That's a good financial decision, because people don't talking about that ease, the lack of what am I trying to say there? It is easy for the consumer to just continue to pay for and subscribe, not having to make each and every single decision of what cut they want, what type of everything. So they're fully vested in the farm process and what we do as a whole. Onto that, marketing is super important. You need to keep in front of your customers. Customers follow your farmers. They're out there, whether they like being on Instagram because they just like taking pictures, or if they like being on Facebook because they get a good crowd and share on there. We do an email as well. So we're putting out good content on a regular basis to each and every step, or each and every whatever the situation is, just sharing, expressing the changes that happen to us, the land, and all the pieces in between. So yeah, I think that's a great way to know your farmer, is follow them, find them through the different types of media that there are out there. There's some great resources that put all of the farmers together out there. You know what I mean? Like just that you can go and find the farmers on these types of websites. So go find the one that's right for you.
You mean like Local Harvest and Eat
Yeah.
Wild?
Yes. Yep. Look on there. as a beginning farmer in the very beginning, before you find yourself a market, they're running to that place. So you're going to find people at the lowest level, just at entry level, getting into agriculture there. So that's a great spot to help those beginner farmers. Yeah. Any other questions from you? Anything else that I'm leaving out?
I don't know. I think that we've kind of been all over the place. I know that I hammered economics with you. I think that it was a good idea because you're an accountant. And you know, I think I loved your answers. I think people should stalk you because you got really cool videos. You really aren't afraid to like put a drone out there and you know, video the farm. I appreciated that ability to kind of visit your land and see where it sits, and it did a wonderful job for me emphasizing your obstacles of the highway.
Sure, for sure.
I mean, that's a big deal. I also think that it would be interesting for people to be able to come there and stand on your land. And I bet that microclimate on your land is so powerful, and it affects probably a 20-mile radius around you. And those people should thank you for that, you know, because I'm sure that what you're doing is affecting them that powerfully, if not more. I bet you actually experience more stability with your seasons around your land because of the bubble that you've created with your microclimate than anybody else around you. And I think that they should pay attention.
I think it's apparent just in simple things. We have a pond, and when you look at the water quality in our pond to just our neighbors, it is different. I mean, there's some divides and some things that keep those things separate, but thank you for all of that. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you today. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I appreciate your time, and sounds like you're going to have a very full day, but it gets to be kind of a good day for you because you get to reach out and touch all those lives. And thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing. And I look forward to following up with you later. Just give me an email or, you know, a call back, and let's get you back on here so you can talk more about it. And I'm glad the subscription model is working for you. That's what I keep encouraging as well. So,
great.
Yay. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.